It's Adam Duritz from Counting Crows. I think this is a Counting Crows song. I put it on my day playlist I have on my YouTube page, and the song's been in my head today. It's melancholy and depressing. That was my favorite part, so I want to do that. So, and thank you again, Adam and Counting Crows. And, it's always been interesting that when I've talked to people about 1990s music, and Jerry Fletcher and I will do that eventually, except she's got a busy June ahead of her, so that might not happen until July. But when we do, we'll talk more about this then. But when I've talked to people about 90s music, and particularly a good example is Counting Crows right there. A lot of their songs are a lot of melancholy and depressing and stuff. And you know what? They're good, but the people who don't like the songs are like, well, why are they so melancholy and depressed? I mean, they're making tons of money on these albums because they did. Counting Crows did very well in the 90s, and they're still doing concerts. They're doing what they love to do and stuff like that. And it's just an interesting perspective on things, and that's what today's episode is going to be partially about. Not everything. It's one of my usual solo ones, so I'll be talking about everything that happened this week, but I've got a few things that I've been thinking about lately, a different perspective from my viewpoint. And so we're going to do that, and we're going to do some trailer stuff because they released a ton of trailers this week. I mean, a ton of trailers, and most of them are pretty good. Also got an interesting thing that I didn't want to wait until my comic show with MJ Khan sometime next couple of weeks. We'll hit that to talk about what Marvel's comics branch is doing with outer space. So I'll talk about that in a second. Other interesting, there have been two kind of high-profile deaths, and a third one that sort of slipped underneath everybody's spotlight. But no, we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll also talk a little bit about some sports stuff. Washington Capitals hockey team down the road from here won their first ever Stanley Cup. And NBA basketball finals ended the day after the Stanley Cup. And then we had the Belmont Stakes. So did we get a Triple Crown winner? Oh, obviously we have. We did. I mean, it's not like when it seems like, oh, I got to wait until I hear about it, which happened yesterday. So I was going to wear my crab hat, but I figured since I got a late start today anyway, I wasn't going to. So it's all about why I was wearing a crab hat. And also the fact that in 10 days it'll be my 45th birthday. So it's June 10th, 2018. This is episode 245 of Dylan Knows. I should start the music then. Barely out Tuesday, 7 hours Wednesday. Anyway, reason why I'm starting later than usual, I originally said I was going to start at 12, and then I said 12:30, and then I said 1 o'clock. The main reason why is got to have a happy wife to have a happy life. My wife wanted to do a Kyogre raid for Pokemon Go at the firehouse of the street here. It was going to be at 12 o'clock. But, was it 11 o'clock? I'm sorry, it was at 11 o'clock. But nobody, was it 11 o'clock or was it 12 o'clock? It was 11 o'clock. But nobody in our group was willing to raid until 11:30, which only left about 5 minutes left on the raid. But we got everybody there and then we had to wait. So technically it was about 11:40 when we went in and did our raid, and took down Kyogre, but I didn't catch him. And then we saw there was going to be another one down the street at Seventh-day Adventist Church, which is going to be it just hatched, so it still had some time on it. So we went down there, and we thought other people were going to be there, but no one was showing up. So my wife sent the message out on our Discord chats, the Pokemon people together. And while we were waiting for them to answer, we went down to a place and caught some Pokemon, and then we got answers. Okay, they're going to come back. So they came back. So let me think about that. It was probably more close to 12:15, 12:20. No, it was about a little bit after 12, I guess. We did another one. We beat them, but again, didn't catch them. And then we came back home, and I had to take a shower before I did the show. I wasn't going to come on this show dirty and disgusting, so that's why my hair is looking the way it is, and that's why I'm late. So, different perspective, trailers, sports stuff, science, all kinds of interesting things. Holidays, obviously, which I always do on there. Interesting stories, bizarre stories. Let's just jump right into it. Let's just start right off the bat with different perspective, because usually what I do is I like to tend to wait and do my main story until later on in the episode. But I figured it's the first thing I wrote on here today. So, and it does sort of connect. We'll do that, and then we'll do the trailer stuff as well. So as you're getting older, you sometimes notice that either your tastes change, or and that goes, I guess, for food and likes that you read, or movies you watch, or music you listen to. Yeah, I tend to listen more to the oldies with 90s and 80s stuff, which are now considered oldies because they're played on oldies stations now, which makes you feel old. And then we can connect to my birthday coming up. So a few things happened this week. And then one other thing that connected for a different perspective. Now, I'll probably talk about this a little bit more when I talk about my trailer section, but the first trailer for the Bumblebee Transformers solo movie came out. Now, those who've watched the show before know that I'm not the biggest fan of Michael Bay's Transformers movies. In fact, I hate them. In the Bumblebee solo film, I was like, okay, wonderful. But I don't think it's by Michael Bay. So I was like, maybe it'll be okay. So we'll see. And it wasn't really, I was going to be that interested in it anyway, but the trailer came up and I said, you know what, let's just take a look at it to see if it's more the same, or maybe they tried something different. And they tried something different. And to be honest, this Bumblebee solo movie looks freaking awesome. And I really want to see it now. It's not coming out till December, but I will detail why I like that. Why I saw that, what I saw in that I liked, which is a different perspective on the Transformers movies now, because it's still part of the Transformers, I guess, film series, I guess, even though Bumblebee looks a little different than he did in the Michael Bay movies, but it's still Transformers, and the fact that I actually am anticipating a Transformers movie is a different perspective, as it were. Sticking with movies, everyone also who's watched this show also knows that I'm not the world's biggest Tarantino fan now, which that's kind of interesting, because I've told this story before. When I was in college, and Reservoir Dogs came out, and Quentin made that without going to film school. He made it. He got the money together, and I guess knew some people who knew Harvey Keitel and Tim Roth, and got a bunch of people to come in and do stuff. He worked at a video store, I guess, in California, and he knew these people, or knew people who knew these people, and he was able to get this movie made, even though he never went to film school. And that was something that I strived for when I was in college, because I didn't want to go to film school, because obviously if Quentin's doing a good job without having to go to film school, and is starting his career right away without having to go to film school, why can't I do that? And film school also, from what I've heard, it varies. Sometimes it's good for you, sometimes it isn't. They teach you a specific route of how to make films, and then you get into the program that way, but it takes you a while to get to your point. Whereas with Quentin or these other indies, Robert Rodriguez is another good example, who just go out and just raise money any way they can and write their script and produce it and film it, and then all of a sudden it becomes a darling. It's a way to look at, if you want to do that, it'd be like, oh, look, these guys can do it, why can't I do it? But I just never got it off the ground, because I just don't have, I guess, the push that I should have. I've never been someone who wants to advance much in life. That's why I'm not a Slytherin. But I never pushed myself to do stuff that I wanted to, and that's, I have sort of a laid-back personality, as you've seen from watching these shows. So, yeah, that. So, and then Pulp Fiction came out, and while I liked Pulp Fiction, the fact that everyone in the world is now calling it like the greatest movie of all time, and I'm sitting there like, it's not really the greatest movie of all time. It's interesting and it's different, but in the end, it's the same thing that he always does, and the thing that got everybody's attention was that he filmed it out of order, or rather edited it out of order, so that it was bouncing all over the place and you couldn't tell linearness, stuff like that. And that's what gave it the edginess of it. And in a movie that prides itself in praising those who commit murders and crimes and making them look like heroes, it rubbed me the wrong way. And then, of course, so then that all happens, and Tarantino has been building up over the years, and people talking about how great he is. So he's in his early 20s, 30s when this happens. So he jumps into it, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm awesome, I'm the best," and then starts complaining that the Academy doesn't know what they're talking about when it didn't win Best Picture, and then all the fans are like, "Yeah, listen." There we go. I've been freezing, clicking off and on. I like Jackie Brown, a little bit different than his usual style stuff. And then he goes back but he has a specific way of that he makes movies, and some of them pretty good. I like the Kill Bill movies, stuff like that. But again, irks me a little bit to some ways. So I've never been the biggest fan of going to see a Tarantino movie. In fact, I haven't really seen any of his newer stuff. I have no desire to see. Why should I? Why do I keep freezing in and out? This is ridiculous. No, I know I need some updates, but there's no reason for me to keep freezing in and out. So then I started reading, and then of course, there was a story that came out a while back, and I talked about this already on my show. And I think that's a really bad idea. Just because maybe of my blind hatred of them, or maybe I shouldn't, make judgments until it's on a science fiction Star Trek movie, because he doesn't do that kind of stuff. So I don't know. But then I was reading an article this week about his newest movie that he's filming, or going to be filming soon, called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And it's kind of based on a true story. Done period pieces before, but this is, kind of with real people in it, whereas the period pieces he did, he created people who might have existed during that time, but were not actual historical people that have actually existed. They were fictional creations of his mind. A bunch of characters that took place in the 1960s to tell a story about Hollywood, and he's got a stellar cast. He's like Pacino, DiCaprio in it, I think, maybe. I had the list here. Let me see if I can drag up this thing again. And then Margot Robbie is going to be playing the woman who was killed by Charles. So let me see. Once Upon a Time in America. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. There it is. Okay. Take a look at it from a different perspective. That maybe this is actually a Tarantino movie that I wouldn't mind seeing. So Damian Lewis, Luke Perry, Emile Hirsch, Dakota Fanning, Clifton Collins Jr. Throw in there Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, Burt Reynolds, Timothy Olyphant, Michael Madsen, and Tim Roth. Set in Los Angeles in the summer of '69. Once Upon a Time. Pacino, also, his name wasn't on this list either. They focus on a male TV actor named Rick Dalton, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, who's had one-hit Western business. His sidekick Cliff Booth, Brad Pitt, who's also his stunt double, was looking for the same. Neighbors in the film, portrayed by Robbie, and Ford for Friends by Charles Manson and Cold Father, serves as a backdrop to the main story. Fiction-like tapestry that covers a group of characters during that summer. So a good idea for a movie, they say, is coming out August 9th, 2019, slated for next August. And then his name was not here either. Al Pacino just got cast as well. So you've got a really good cast in that, and a really interesting story to me. And it's making me go, you know what? This might actually be a Tarantino movie that I might not want to miss in the movie theater. So there's that one. Then there's the Bumblebee movie, which I just talked about, which is another one that's killing my perspective of these are movie franchises or people I don't like, and all of a sudden I see these trailers and something's making me go, you know, might not be too bad to check these out. So we've got another year before Tarantino's comes out. Bumblebee's comes out in December, so that'll come closer, and we'll see more about Tarantino's movie. He's just in the process of pre-production right now. So, but to have DiCaprio and Brad Pitt together on set is a really interesting idea. So it's a really good cast. So another thing, as I said, that gives me a different perspective on things. And then finally, the last one I want to talk about today is there is a artist by the name of Bill Sienkiewicz. He's been around since the 80s. In the 1980s, he drew The New Mutants, which in the 1980s was a huge book written by Chris Claremont, introduced a whole bunch of New Mutants, hence the name, right in the middle of when the mutants were huge in the 1980s. And Bill Sienkiewicz's artwork is more artsy-fartsy and exaggerated and more like a painter than a comic book artist. And I think in my teens, I was not interested in that type of comic book artwork. I was more interested along the lines of the typical comic book art that I see all the time. Figures I could understand and take a look at, and not crazy perspectives and weird paintings and stuff like that. And then, gradually he did some other stuff too, Electro Assassin with Frank Miller and a few other things as well. He's done lots of covers. He did a really good cover for the first Transformers comic ever that was printed by Marvel in 1984 in the miniseries. It was a really good cover. And that was, I think, maybe the first cover that got me thinking, this guy might not be too bad. And then all of a sudden, I started seeing some more of his work. I was like, no, I really don't like it. But that cover still held a fascination for me. So fast forward to, I think it started sometime around last year or whatever, maybe 2 years. It might have even been 2 years ago. I don't remember. It's been a while. But I follow him on Twitter because he's a comic book guy, and I've heard people, who before I followed him, who had been following him, they were retweeting him, and I read his tweets. I thought, okay, this is pretty cool. Let me just follow him, and I don't have to read his tweets if I don't want to, but it'd be kind of cool just to see what he does. And he starts posting more paintings and pictures that he's done for comics and stuff he's done recently. And I started clicking on the pictures just to see what they looked like, and I guess out of curiosity, obviously. And I started liking a lot, like what I saw. It's like every picture I clicked on, I was like, this is actually really cool. I really, really like it. And so here it is 20 years later, and he's still around doing artwork. And 20 years ago when I hated the stuff, now I'm actually finding myself retweeting it and responding to it, going, holy cow, this is amazing, and stuff like that. And then on top of that, what he also does is when somebody famous dies, he tends to do pencil drawings of the people who've passed away and post them also mere days after they passed away. So it's almost like, okay, in this case, Anthony Bourdain passed away this week. We'll talk about that a little later. Literally, it was like maybe 5-7 hours later, Bill Sienkiewicz posts a picture saying, so sorry to hear about Anthony Bourdain, depression's not funny, suicide, stuff like that. And he posts a picture, and there is his picture of Anthony Bourdain that he drew pencil-wise. And it was great. It was gorgeous. I don't necessarily think he does it for everybody. I don't think he did one for Kate Spade because he might not really be that connected to Kate Spade. But, like he would do some for actors and actresses and musicians, Anthony Bourdain, politicians who passed away as well. I think he did one for Barbara Bush when she passed away. She did pass away, right? I'm not imagining that. Yes, she did. I think he did a picture of her as well. So he doesn't always draw people who pass away, but it's ones that he has a connection to or whatever. and they're really good. And then he just released one, I guess, on the anniversary of Robin Williams' death that he did of Robin Williams, which I'd never seen before, and it was excellent also. So again, I don't know if you want to just call that aging or whatever, but your perspective changes over your life. Some things remain the same. To this dying day, I will despise green and red peppers and onions. I hate them, and coconut, and I don't like any of that stuff. I'm never going to, and I've tried, it's not like I've never tried it before. I've tried it before and I do not like them. So that's not going to change. Now, has other things in my taste changed? Absolutely they have. When I was a kid, obviously, and this is, a lot of kids go through this. They're picky eaters. They only want to eat hot dogs or chicken nuggets or macaroni and cheese or whatever. And then gradually, as you start getting older, your tastes change, and other people start introducing things, or you have to eat things out of necessity or something that sounds interesting. Like a good example, again, is when I was in college, my freshman year, our cafeteria chef was Irish. And for St. Patrick's Day, he wanted to make a St. Patrick's Day like type dinner. So I think they did the typical corned beef and cabbage, but he also did a lamb stew. And I'd never had lamb before, and it sounded interesting. It looked interesting. So I said, what do I got to lose? I eat a little. I've already paid for my food through my food thing. There's plenty of other food out there. I mean, he didn't just do his Irish stuff. They had other stuff. They had pizzas and hot dogs and just the regular stuff that they always have, cereal if you wanted to eat cereal. So it'd be like, what do I have to lose? I eat a little bit of it. If I hate it, I throw it out. I get something else, because you don't have to pay for that stuff. I've already paid for it with my dining membership or whatever. I forget what it's called. Part of going to college, you pay a certain amount of money for your food, so you don't have to pay for it. Now, if you want something else down at every college usually has like a snack bar or something like that. We had one called the Sub, which was in the basement of the same building where the cafeteria was. Now, if you wanted that stuff, you got like late night munchies or something like that. They were usually open till like midnight or something like that, because college kids notoriously don't sleep late at night, so they were open very late. So they started like a pizza delivery service, and you could just charge everything to your student account. So they would have Tombstone pizzas. So like say midnight, and I'm studying or whatever, and I get the munchies and I want a pizza, I'd call them up and say, yeah, I'd like a pizza delivered here, and they would deliver it, and I go down and eat it, pay for it. So it was great, but I had to pay for that. Whereas the dining hall, you got, if you already paid for it. So you go in, you try something, you don't like it, you throw it out, you go get something else. It's not the end of the world. They're not going to say anything. They're not going to say, weren't you just here? They're not going to reject giving you food. They're just going to give you more food. So I said, what do I got to lose? So I tried the lamb stew, and I loved lamb, and I loved the lamb stew. So there was something else I had never had before that I tried. My senior week in college, which was weird, because we did our exams the week before the regular students did. And then when the regular students, the underclassmen, I should say, when the underclassmen did theirs, we had our senior week, because we were going to be graduating like the weekend after we did exams. So for that week, it was sort of like a break for our mind and stuff like that. So we went to like every day, the school took us someplace interesting, different. And one of the places we went to was a place that was a shish kebab place for the most part. And they had a million not literally, but they had a lot of different types of food. They had snake, shark, bison, deer, beef, pork, typical stuff, turkey. They had everything. They had all kinds of different types of meat. And what you did was you cooked it yourself. So you'd go up to the counter and say, okay, I want some snake, I want some shark, I want some rattlesnake, I want some beef, I want some bison, and they would give it all to you. And then you would have vegetables, I guess, are labeled around if you wanted that. And then they had these big giant like fire pit type things, and you would just stick your shish kebab over it and cook it on this fire pit, and then just gulp it down there. So I was enjoying myself. I successfully graduated college. I hadn't gotten my diploma yet. That was going to come later in the weekend, but we were experiencing fun and relaxation, drinking alcohol, because we were all 21. We could do that. And this place served it, and we were being taken there by buses, so we didn't have to drive. So I tried bison, I tried snake, I tried shark, I tried deer, I tried all these different things, and I liked a lot of it. And it was sometimes, stuff I wouldn't have eaten 10 years before, I started liking and enjoying. Guacamole, I never got interested in guacamole, never thought I'd like avocado type things. And then early on when I was dating my wife, Dawn, we went to a Christmas party that her boss threw, and they had, and I wish they'd bring these back, they had like guacamole Doritos. They were Doritos that tasted like guacamole, and I wish they'd bring them back. And I was, kind of hungry, so I said, I may as well try one. I popped one in my mouth. It's like, oh my God, this is wonderful. So I just pigged out on those guacamole chips. And then a little while later, at a family party of Dawn's house, they made actual guacamole, and I tried actual guacamole for the first time. And I was like, I really, really like this. And then we went to Quiznos, which was, not Quiznos, Qdoba, which is a Mexican restaurant, and definitely got guacamole on my burritos, and I ate my burritos with guacamole, and I loved it also. So now I love guacamole. My mother-in-law also makes a thing called taco dip, which doesn't really taste like taco dip. It tastes like guacamole dip, to be honest, but it's not guacamole. It's made with avocados, but it's also made with cream cheese and some other stuff as well. It's not green like guacamole is, because guacamole is just avocados. Avocados are part of it, but there's other aspects to it as well. And there's taco spicing and stuff like that. That's why it's called taco dip. It's really, really good. So I like that as well. So again, my taste changed on that end. But again, as I said, some perspectives aren't going to change, and some food dislikes aren't going to change. Like a good example, after this Tarantino movie, which looks interesting to me, I might not like the next one he plans on. If it's Star Trek, we'll see. But if he decides something else and I read the story, I was like, yeah, no, not interested, then that's my choice. So just an interesting thing to interesting thing to look at and think about, and kind of interesting. But we'll get back to the Transformers trailer in a second. Or actually, you know what? We'll get to it now. So trailers. Let's see what came out. What trailers came out? So this week we had. This is just this week. We had Bumblebee the movie, Lego Movie 2. Spider-Man Travels to the Spider-Verse, or whatever the animated Spider-Man movie is. The Halloween remake. First Man, which is a story about Neil Armstrong. And the Predator movie. So there are 6 that came out this week. And I watched every single one of them. And for the most part, I liked most of them. Since I'd already talked about Bumblebee a little bit, let me just tell you why I liked this Bumblebee one. The Bumblebee trailer, if you haven't seen it yet, focuses on a young girl, I think Haley Stanfield or something like that, who gets her first car. She's a teenager, 20-year-old, whatever. It's her first car, and it's used, obviously. Apple software update. Worry about that later. And she wants a old school yellow bee, not bee, punch buggy. The yellow bugs that you see out there all the time. And it needs some work on it, so she works on it, cleans up a little bit. And then there's like a shot where it does like a tracking shot, and you like go underneath the car, and then you see Bumblebee's head, and then all of a sudden his eyes light up, and then he transforms in front of Haley Stanfield, and she asks him all kinds of questions, and then some other stuff happens. You see John Cena's in it. He plays like an army guy trying to get Bumblebee. But here's where it gets, and then so there's a lot of different things, but it focuses more on the relationship between the girl and Bumblebee, and not on the end of the world scenarios with giant robots battling each other. They barely show giant robots fighting each other. They showed some action sequences, and then there was, and this is what I think really maybe drew my attention. It looks like Starscream transforming. It's an airplane transforming, but it looks like Starscream transforming. But here's the kicker. It looks like the Starscream from the cartoon. So it has the same general plane description, and then it's got the nose cone, and you start seeing it transforming, and that's where it stops. So you don't actually see who it is, but it looks like Starscream. It looks like old school Starscream, not this crappy new one that Michael Bay did for these Transformers movies. Same thing with Bumblebee. He's a bug, and they they turn him back into the way he looks and not these fancy type cars that they've had him created as and stuff like that. And there's a little bit of humor in the end, but and then John Cena's in it also. But it looks just like, it's got a small cast. It looks like more of a relationship movie between a young girl and the Transformer, and the Transformer's in danger, and the young girl wants to try to save him because they have a bond and stuff like that. But it doesn't look like this orgy of robot violence that the Transformers turned out and became. So where the fight scenes, you couldn't see what the hell was going on. They showed some action sequences, but not a lot. And it's a typical cliched sort of thing. The government wants to grab it, so it chases after it, and so Bumblebee tries to go into hiding with the young girl and tries to get him to safety. So, and that also might be a reason why it helps also, because it's something you've seen before and is familiar, but it's also kind of new because you've never seen something like that in the world of Transformers, whereas the world of Transformers is just a big, as I said, robot orgy of robots attacking each other and destroying property, and the U.S. government and battle scenes you can't tell what the heck's going on with them, and characters which are awful, terrible, characters and cliched stereotypes and stuff like that. This movie, just from what I've seen from the one trailer, now that could all turn out to be different when we see the next trailer, because again, it's not coming out till December, so we still got months before it comes back. Let's see, it's June. We got about 6 months before it comes out, so we're going to get a couple more trailers which will dig deeper into the movie, and they'll probably do one to get more attention to the Transformers than this one. This one focused more on the relationship aspect, and maybe they're aiming to try to get more women to come in and watch the movie, which is fantastic, because I think they'll like it, and I want to see this now. So I highly recommend. I like the Bumblebee one a lot, and it makes me want to actually go see it. So I probably will. Who knows? Maybe I'll get my kids to see it, because my son likes John Cena, so we'll see. And the next up was Lego Movie 2, which will actually be coming out next summer. And I really, 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 really liked the original Lego Movie. It was fantastic. It was great. Nice twist ending that I did not actually see coming. And I liked how it ended. And so when they announced the sequel, it's like, okay, how are they going to do this? And what it ends up looking like is this. Looks like it's going to be kind of a Mad Max, not rip-off or parody, but it's going to be like Mad Max style type of Lego Movie thing, which is an interesting take on it, where you're used to everything being bright and cheery and happy, and everything is awesome, and everything is perfect, and it's a wonderful city, and people are working, and all kinds of stuff is happening there. This looks like dusty, dirty, post-apocalyptic stuff, which to get a Lego Movie parody kind of a post-apocalyptic series is actually going to be pretty funny. And you've got all the main cast back. Chris Pratt is back as Emmett, and Banks. I'm going to say Banks. Elizabeth Banks is back as the female lead, which my mind is just a total blank right now. And Lucy is her character, is the name she ends up, is her real name. It's not the name of the character on the show. Batman pops up in it as well, and they've got a whole bunch of the old cast from Lego Movie is in it. We've only just seen a perspective from Elizabeth Banks' character and Chris Pratt's character, and how it's just an introduction to how the world is now, post-apocalyptic world and stuff like that, and how they're reacting to that. So interesting take on it. It doesn't quite have the grab for me right now, but I think, again, it's just a teaser trailer. We still got a whole year before it comes out, so we'll probably be seeing a lot more ads and trailers for this down the line, and we'll probably see more of the stuff that they want to try to sell with Lego Movies. So, people who enjoyed the first Lego Movie, they'll show stuff like the interactions with the other types of Legos and stuff like that. So I'm sure they'll do that and highlight a little bit more of the humor and stuff like that. So I'm still going to see it because I like the original Lego Movie, and I like to see what they're going to do with this angle. But it didn't blow me away. I guess that's the proper one. It didn't make me go, oh my God, I need to go see this like yesterday. I can't wait a whole year to find out what happens. No, it didn't act that way to me. Then there was the Spider-Verse trailer. Animated Spider-Man movie, I think comes out this year, that focuses on Miles Morales. And it's animated, so it's not live action. And it looks good. I mean, it actually, I've never really read much of Miles' character because I stopped reading Ultimate Spider-Man before Miles was even created. And so I never really got into the Miles Morales aspect of it. But I've heard about the character. I've read him before in other series that I did follow that he showed up in. And I like the character and all that. And then at the end, you get a glimpse of the Spider-Gwen, who I do love, and to see her show up. And then it's a Spider-Verse movie, so you're going to be able to see a lot more of these different Spider-Men that are from different dimensions. You get a Spider-Man from like our dimension type of thing, and he's playing the mentor, but he's got kind of a goofy side to him, which makes sense, which is what Peter Parker Spider-Man is. It's an animated movie. It's an animated Spider-Man movie. I'd probably go see it. It looks interesting. Again, it's not one of those that's like, oh my God, I can't wait to see this. It's one that I have to go see. If I don't see it in the movie theaters, I don't see it in the movie theaters. I'll probably pick it up on DVD or Blu-ray or on streaming, whatever it is, and watch it then. But I do want to watch it, but it's not like, oh my God, I got to see this again right now. Now, if they do another trailer down the line, a couple months, because I think this is coming out in the fall also, and it shows more stuff and more action, and that might get me more interested in it. But right now, again, like Lego Movie 2, is like, I'll probably see it. Lego Movie 2, I probably will see in the movie theater, but the Spider-Verse one, not necessarily a guarantee that I'm going to go see it in the movie theater, but I am a Spider-Man fan, and we'll see what happens. And it's pretty good artwork, an interesting take on Spider-Man, and the Spider-Verse is always an interesting story. I've always had an idea they should do a Spider-Verse live-action movie and bring back Tobey Maguire and Andrew, what's his face, who played him in the other two Spider-Man movies. Again, my mind is just so out of it today, so please forgive me. And then also get Tom Holland in there as well, and have him be the guy who's there. But then you can get a bunch of other people who played Spider-Man before, Nicholas Hammond. You can bring him back as well, and then get some other. Get a live-action Spider-Gwen in there, Miles Morales. Stuff like that, and do a live-action Spider-Verse movie. I'd like to see that too, particularly if you get Andrew and Tobey back in as well as Spider-Man, who are older and wiser types. So I think that'd be kind of cool. So we'll see about that. Next up was Halloween, the remake. This one I really, really liked a lot because Halloween is probably my favorite horror movie. I watched the original Halloween every Halloween as much as I can. Sometimes I miss it, or I watch it a few days before Halloween, depending on when my time is and when I can actually sit down and do it. But I try to watch it every year on around Halloween. And this one is a different take because the original one came out in 1977 or 1978. So 40 years ago, actually. And it did extraordinarily well. So they made a sequel, which actually wasn't too bad. And then they did the third one, which had nothing to do with Michael Myers. And they brought Michael Myers back for like the 15th anniversary or 10th anniversary or something like that. They brought him back. I think it might have been 10th anniversary. So that would have been 88. They brought him back for that, for Halloween 4, which was better than I thought it was going to be, but still it devolved into a typical generic serial killer movie, because during that time in the 80s, you had, you could say Halloween was the blueprint people wanted to go with. So in the 80s, after Halloween came out, you got Friday the 13th, and you got Nightmare on Elm Street and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, though that was before Halloween, but they just did the one and that was it. But then after the success of Halloween, they decided to do some sequels after that as well. So you come in and you devolve the Halloween movies with Halloween 4 into a typical slasher type movie, like as I said, like a Friday the 13th, Nightmare Before on Elm Street, whatever. And as I said, it was okay. It wasn't outstanding, but I loved the ending. The ending was fantastic. They ended on a great cliffhanger, just like the first one did, and I love that. And then they did the fifth one. The fifth one is an absolute disaster because it is a serial killer porn one where Michael Myers just goes and he kills everybody, and there's really no story whatsoever. It connects to the cliffhanger a little bit, but it doesn't really flesh it out all that much. And then you get another really, actually, the one redeeming value of number 5 was a really interesting character who pops up periodically through the movie on a motorcycle wearing like a black leather jacket, and you don't ever see their face. And they show up, and at the very end, something happens, and we find out that this person is working with Mike Myers and takes Mike Myers away, and that's where the cliffhanger ends on number 5. Then you get number 6, which is one of the most gruesome, bizarre movies that actually stars Paul Rudd in one of his early films he ever did. And it could have been really cool because it took the Halloween franchise and just threw it on its ass. But it also made it more gruesome because now we were into the 90s where you need to show a little bit more and do a little bit more gruesomeness and to get people's attention again, instead of your typical generic slasher films. And they introduced a completely bizarre, whacked out storyline about a cult, and that Mike Myers' killing sprees are marked upon what happens in the heavens with the way the stars are set up and stuff like that. And it's an interesting idea that fell flat on its face, and because they just upped the gruesomeness too much and just sort of got away from what could have been a really interesting type of culty type thriller. Instead of making it like a slasher film, you could have made it like a cult film, and it could have been an interesting take on the cult film. So then they said, you know what, we need to do something special for its 20th anniversary. Yes, H2O. So they brought Jamie Lee Curtis back, who hadn't been in any of the other Halloweens except for the second one, the first one, the second one. They brought her back, and they did Halloween H2O. This came out in '98, right at the height of Scream, and those horror films started making a comeback, but they were a little bit different than you expected. But Scream was the one that was bringing all of them back. So this one, they decided to let's sort of take a page from Scream's book and cast popular teenage actors at the time. Michelle Williams is one of those actresses who's now gone on to have an extraordinarily stellar career acting-wise, but she did originally appear in a Halloween movie. And the reason why she was in that was because she was on Dawson's Creek at the time, and that was a popular TV show in the 1990s. So they did that, but the key was to bring back Jamie Lee Curtis. So H2O actually was excellent because you brought Jamie Lee Curtis back for what we thought was going to be a final battle with her brother, Mike Myers, at this prestigious school where she had gone and hidden away from him. And it was exactly what I expected. I wish I would have seen more of a battle, I think, instead of him chopping up these teens. But I would have liked to see more of a maybe extended battle sequence between Jamie Lee Curtis and Mike Myers, who were both trying to outdo each other. And then you thought, okay, it ended on a pretty good note where she chops off his head. Then like, nah, not so much. There was something else that happened. So then the 8th one comes out, and that's a crappy one. I think that's the one where they make it into like a like Snoop Dogg or something like that, where they go to the Myers house and they're like filming something for the internet or whatever, and Mike Myers comes back and kills everybody in there, and then I think they kill Jamie Lee Curtis's character. And then they discovered that the person Jamie Lee Curtis beheaded was actually the guy who was driving the ambulance that Mike Myers was in, and they somehow were able to switch bodies and gag. It's a stupid, dumb movie, and it killed Halloween for me. So I don't want to watch anymore. And then Rob Zombie decided he wanted to do remakes of it. I've never been a real big Rob Zombie fan, so he upped the gore on it, and he did his thing as well. And then he made a different take on Halloween. Now, the first one is almost a rewrite of the original Halloween, but he throws his own, and I give him respect for this. I'm not a big fan of Rob Zombie's films, but from what I've heard and read, because I have read the descriptions on Wikipedia, so I know what the story is about, what happens. He decided to make some changes that he thought better suited the story than they did in the 1970s. And in all intents and purposes, I guess it worked out in the end. And then they made the sequel because it was successful. So they made the sequel Halloween 2, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, and he totally went off the rails on that one, which is what you kind of wanted. You wanted to get a different perspective and a different take on Halloween, So you get a story that has nothing to do with any of the previous Halloween movies and do your own thing. And it wasn't as successful. And to this point, I don't know why it wasn't as successful. I mean, there is a group out there that really loves Rob Zombie stuff, and the original Halloween, his Rob Zombie's Halloween remake made enough money that it warranted a sequel. But just for whatever reason, the sequel just didn't take for whatever. Maybe it was too out there and too bizarre for the viewing public, because Rob Zombie really did make some changes in the remake. Now, everyone thinks it's a straight-up remake, but it isn't. People who died in the original Halloween, the characters were in the remake, they didn't die. A few others did, but it added a little extra thing, and then things got switched around a little bit, and then it just got really, really crazy and bizarre. So Rob Zombie didn't want to do any more of those. Understandable. He is better suited, I think, for when he creates his own horror films. Again, I didn't see 1 and 2. People could say, you're an idiot, you don't know what you're talking about. And I know people who really, really like the Rob Zombie ones. But again, there's that group of people who just love his stuff and love his horror things. And I think maybe that was one of the reasons why number 2 wasn't as successful, because you're taking a character everybody knows with Mike Myers and other characters as well, and you're really messing around with it and doing it in your perspective, which is why he was originally hired, which I'm okay with. I'm okay with him doing that. But the problem is the everyday Joe viewer might not be happy with that. They liked the first one because it was very similar feel to the one that they liked, the original one with Jamie Lee Curtis. The second one was totally different. They're like, no, I don't think this is good. And that's why I said I think Rob Zombie's better suited for creating his own horror and doing his own thing and pushing his own envelope. And he is. He's doing, I think he's doing 2 back-to-back. He's kind of sequels with the 3 serial killers he's done before in one of his other movies. They're coming back in a new movie, and I think that's actually going to probably be very successful, I would think, because, again, you're going back to something you're used to, characters you created and you can control and you're doing stuff with, and you're not going to upset people because, hey, it's my stuff. I can do whatever the hell I want with these characters. I know these characters better than you guys do because they're my characters. So I'll give Rob Zombie props for that. So having said all that, this new trailer comes out. It's another reboot, but technically it's, after watching the trailer and listening to the narration, I watched it like 3 or 4 times because I liked it that much. You discover that this is actually Halloween 2. What do I mean by that? And this is not really a spoiler, because if you watch the trailer, you know all this already. So basically what we learn, and it's an opening narration of the trailer, is that the original Halloween happened. How many people were killed in that? 3, right? The 2 women and the woman's boyfriend. They were killed. There were 3. They were trying to, and he was trying to go after Jamie Lee Curtis's character, but she outwitted him with the help of the doctor, Dr. Loomis. And so what happens is, so in the original film, which is a great cliffhanger ending, by the way, if you haven't seen it. So I'm going to spoiler a little bit. So if you haven't seen the original Halloween, there's something wrong with it. You need to go see it, because it's a horror film, but it's not like gory, gruesome horror. Loomis, who is the psychiatrist, is caught up with Michael Myers, and before Michael Myers is getting ready to kill Jamie Lee Curtis, choke her to death, Loomis comes and shoots him, and Laurie Strode, which is Jamie Lee Curtis' character, is off the side, and Michael goes back in the bedroom, and so Loomis runs into the bedroom to make sure that he can take out Mike Myers. Mike Myers is standing by the bedroom window, and he starts emptying his gun into Mike Myers. Loomis does, and he's getting shot. He's like, and he's going backwards and backwards, and then he falls out the window. There's like a porch thing. It falls out the porch and falls 2 stories, 3 stories down from the top of the house and falls to the ground. Loomis goes over and sees him, and Mike Myers is lying like he's dead. He's like, he's been shot like 6 times, and he's fallen 3 stories. So you think he's dead. So Loomis checks, sees him on the ground, and then hears Laurie say something. Was that the boogeyman? And he goes back and checks on her and says, I believe it was. And then he looks back, and Myers is gone, and it's a fantastic ending. And then it cuts back to Jamie Lee Curtis, who's undergone a horrendous night, and she's just crying from pain and loss of her friends and just the threat that she almost lost her life. And Loomis has got this look on his face like, holy shit, I failed. What's going to happen now? And that's where it ends. And that's why it's so great. And then the second one came and wrapped up that storyline. But what they decided to do with this new one is they just deleted everything except for Halloween. So instead of him getting shot 3 times and falling off of the house and then running away and disappearing, he actually gets arrested by the police officers and is sent to a psych ward, prison, whatever you want to call it, for 40 years. So now it's 40 years later, and Laurie Strode's still alive, and she's basically, and she looks like Carol from Walking Dead. I mean, her and Melissa, I forget her last name. Who plays Carol, look exactly the same. They could play sisters. You got to make that happen. They could play sisters. Particularly now, Jamie Lee Curtis's gray hair also, like Carol does. Melissa McBride. So we find out that after the horrendous events of Halloween, Mike Myers was arrested after being shot 3 times by Loomis and is put into a psychiatric ward. And after that, Laurie was able to get on with her life while still being kind of PTSD, sort of post-traumatic stress disorder. She's paranoid. She wants to be overly prepared, a lot like Linda Hamilton's character from Terminator, Sarah Connor. After her torturous first encounter with the Terminator, she becomes a tougher, upbeat, not upbeat, but tougher, prepared woman. And the same thing happens with Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie Strode. But she has found time that she's gotten married, she's had kids, and she's now a grandmother. And we get introduced to her grandchildren, who are cute teenage girls talking about, that Laurie Strode is famous and she's paranoid and stuff like that. And she's still freaked out and paranoid about what happened and afraid that he's still alive, that someday he's going to get out and he's going to try to come after her. And she's got that paranoid, but he's been captured for 40 years. So, of course, what's going to happen is this 2 British people, either doing a documentary or they're MI5 or something, I don't know, they actually go to the psychiatric place and are talking to Mike Myers and get him enough to get out of the prison. And then you see some cuts of people getting killed and stuff like that, and Mike Myers getting his mask on, and he's coming back, and it's Halloween night, and then all of a sudden, Laurie knows that Mike Myers is alive and coming after her, so she gets into her defense mode and is telling people to get off the streets and is gun-wielding stuff. And there's a great shot where she's on the street and she looks up in this house, and in the 2nd-story window, she sees Mike Myers in the window. She takes her gun, pauses for a second, and shoots, and it hits exactly in the glass. It looks like it's going right for his head, but he doesn't fall down or anything like that, but just like that. And there's scenes of her being like Rambo badass, Michael, where are you? She's got these big ass guns, shooting up in this house, doing stuff. So it looks like there's gonna be like another battle between her and Mike Myers. Plus, then the grandchildren are going to get involved with it because there's a few scenes of them having some horrific stuff happen to them. And what's also great about it is the Mike Myers mask looks a lot like it's been aged and look like it's old man Mike Myers, like old man Logan from the Logan movie. It looks like it's old man Mike Myers. And of course it would be, because Mike Myers was 20 something when he went on his killing spree in 78, and it's been 40 years. So now he's in his 60s. So you have Laurie, who's also in her 60s, taking on Mike Myers, who's also in his 60s. Now we also learned that they've also gotten rid of the whole thing about him that they're not related anymore. He was just a psychopath killing people, which was something that they brought in the second Halloween movie, is that the reason why Mike Myers was going after her was because they were related and he wanted to kill her because he had killed his sister previous in 63. So it looks really interesting, and looks a little bit more gruesomeness. There's some more blood in it than I see, and some jump scares that pop up. But it's great to see Jamie Lee Curtis playing Laurie Strode as a badass, Sarah Connor, Carol type, who's not taking any BS and is paranoid for a good reason. And then this Mike Myers is a great shot of him like flipping a knife after he kills somebody. It's really kind of neat. So even though I'm not the biggest horror movie fan, because I find them to be a little bit too gruesome and too jump scary for my taste. I might actually go see this one in the movie theater as well, because it's Halloween, and just from what I've seen of this trailer, it's like, yes, I kind of want to see this. So that one I really, really enjoyed. First Man, which is the biopic kind of Neil Armstrong with what's his face? Guy who was in La La Land and was just in it's not Gyllenhaal. Who was just in see, this is awful. My brain is just wiped right now. First Man. There we go. It is Ryan Gosling. Okay, so Ryan Gosling is playing Neil Armstrong. Again, I've never been the biggest Ryan Gosling's fan, but you know, they showed the trailer for the Neil Armstrong biopic, and that's always an interesting story about learning about the guy who ultimately was the first person on the moon. And you get a perspective of his whole career, because he was a part of the Mercury program prior to him getting his ticket punched for the moon. That's why he was picked to go to the moon, because he had been with them from the beginning when they started the program. So you get to see him going up, moving up through the ranks, and all the stuff that happens. That there's a lot more action, and it's one of these things that it seems like that everything is failing and planes are crashing, and you get a little bit more of the family life where his wife is scared for him because she's afraid he's going to die in one of these, you know, tests for the outer space thing. It's not worth, you know, risking your life to go to outer space and do all this stuff. And so you're going to get a little perspective of all this stuff. It's a biopic. There's probably going to be some Oscar bait in it, and I wouldn't be surprised if Gosling gets a nomination for it. Most times when you're portraying a real person in a biopic, you're going to get some sort of nomination, and Ryan Gosling has been known to get these, and probably for good reason. He's probably a really good actor. I've never really watched any movie that I've been interested in with him in it. So this one looks interesting. Again, it wasn't one of those that it's just like, oh, I got to see this one. It's a lot more loud and bombastic, and looks like it's going to be a bit more of not just about him, but about the initial beginnings of the Mercury and Apollo programs and everything that happened leading to us landing on the moon. And then there's this great shot of the interior of the lander, and stairways going down, and you see the moon's surface. So that's kind of a neat shot. Even obviously it's computer generated, but it's still kind of a neat thing. And you know what's going to happen. You know how the story ends anyway, but it's interesting to get a little bit more in-depth look at Neil Armstrong, because if you haven't read about him or seen anything about him, I don't know that much about him. I know he was the first man on the moon, and the reason why I know he was picked to do that is he must have been involved prior to landing on the moon, being involved with the program, because they're not just going to give some Yahoo who's just jumped on the bandwagon and, hey, you just started with the program, or we got guys who've been doing it for 20 years, 10 years, whatever. Yeah, we'll send you to the moon. You'll be the first man on the moon. You know, Buzz Aldrin will be like, what the hell is that, man? Why are you doing that? Why are you letting him do it? So he built up his thing. So it was his turn, his shot to do that. So we'll probably get to see maybe why they chose him, you know, and so on and so forth. So that looks interesting. Again, it's not one of those that's like, I got to go see this, but it looks like it's going to be a passable movie. It looks like it's going to be an Oscar bait movie, which is fine. And it's from the director of La La Land. So, you know, he's won some Oscars already and knows how to make Oscar-winning movies. So it's going to be interesting. And you got Ryan Gosling in it. So there you go. And then the last one we're going to talk about today is Predator, the new Predator reboot or whatever, which is interesting because Shane Black wrote and directed it. Now, Shane Black was actually in the original Predator. I think he also wrote it also. He was in the original Predator. He was one of the soldiers in Schwarzenegger's crew. And so now he's directing and writing a new Predator movie. And I've seen, they did a teaser trailer a few weeks ago, a month ago or something like that. This was like the first full trailer. And it looks the same. I mean, instead of it being in the jungles of Bolivia or wherever the hell it was in the original movie, it seems like it's in the forests of America, and it's going to be not soldiers, but like police officers and kids and stuff like that are going to be taking on this Predator. And he's like going to be, it seems like a mix of Predator 1 and 2, because Predator 1 took place in the jungles and Predator 2 was in the city. So it looks like they're going to like combine them into sort of, okay, there's going to be a woodsy, like a Portland, Oregon type of town or whatever. That's, you know, the woods are right nearby, and it's going to be not a big city, but is near the woods and mountains, and there's going to be a little bit of mixed stuff. The Predator looks like the Predator. He looks good. It's Shane Black, who has experience with the Predator, so that's a plus as well. But again, it's not one of those movies that's like, oh my God, I got to see this movie right away. Now. No, it's just like, okay, I probably won't see it in the movie theater, but I might pick it up when it comes on DVD or Blu-ray or on whatever. But it's not going to be one of those that I got to see this right away. And that one's in the fall. I think it's in September, actually. So that one's a lot closer than the other movies we might have seen. I think First Man is going to be, like, as I said, Oscar Bates will probably have a short release in December, and then a wider release probably in January. And then Halloween's coming out, I think October 19th, I think was what they said Halloween was going to take place. The Spider-Verse movie, I think, is also coming out this fall, maybe around Thanksgiving, I would say, because that seems like a appropriate place for that type of movie. I guess to go up against Aquaman as well, which is coming out around that time as well, which we haven't seen a trailer for yet. That's probably going to be one of the next big ones that's coming up. And Lego Movie's not till next year, and Bumblebee's December, so we've got some time. There's no Star Wars movie this December, so Bumblebee might do really, really well, or they might even release First Man in December also. Or again, I think they're just going to do like a small release in California, New York, just so it can get Oscar-worthy votes for coming out this year, and then they'll do it wider in January. That seems to be like the plan, I think, for them. So we'll see. So I would recommend, you know, make your own decisions on that end. So go out and check out the Bumblebee trailer, the Lego Movie 2 trailer, the Spider-Man Spider-Verse trailer, new Halloween trailer, the First Man trailer, and the Predator trailer, and make your own determinations about what you want to see and what you don't want to see, and see if I'm full of shit for describing it the way this is. Oh man, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. Since I've just been doing groups of stuff, I'm going to do the next group of things, and then I have a whole bunch of like short stuff. So I'm an hour in now, so I'm probably going to go another hour. So hang on to your butts. This next batch of stories I want to talk about is comic book related, but bear with me. It's interesting. A lot of people might not like comic books, but this is kind of it's an interesting thing that Marvel's doing, and I'm not exactly quite sure where it's leading to. Now, we all know the Marvel Cinematic Universe is phenomenal. It's blowing every other cinematic universe out of the water. It has like the top 3 highest grossing movies of all time are all Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, stuff like that. So, you know, you've got a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie actually coming out really soon. Ant-Man and the Wasp. I thought it was going to be more mid-July. This is 4th of July weekend. So in about a month, you're going to get Ant-Man and the Wasp, which I'm dying to see because I've been seeing ads for that, and I really, really like that. I'm seeing that in the movie theater. So you start to see more of those, not really trailers, they're commercials you see for television, and it's adding more to building what the movie's about, and it looks really, really good. But the comic books have been having some issues, which we're not going to get into because it's not a comic book show. That's my show with MJ, what I'll do in a couple of weeks. But one of the things that drives me absolutely bonkers is that Marvel always likes to restart books with number ones, and they just did a legacy thing last year. They said, oh, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to just put, you know, all the books that, you know, Captain America's and the Spider-Mans, we're going to put them, you know, at their original numbering, you know, and we're going to just continue with that instead of doing new number ones. And then we get a bunch of new number ones. But what's interesting about this is, and maybe this is tied into the new Fantastic Four book that's coming out in August, I think, or July, Dan Slott's writing, but Marvel's going interstellar for some reason, and I don't know if it's building up to something. This is in the comic books, not in the movies. It's building up to something in the comic books. I'm not exactly sure. The first one was Black Panther. Now, Black Panther has been huge this year. It came out in, March, and has been one of the best performing movies of all time. And there have been multiple Black Panther comics out, and there was a regular series coming out during the run of the movies, and they actually did a few other ones as well. Well, they're restarting Black Panther again. They canceled it, and then they brought back the same writer but different artist. But this time, instead of it being based in Wakanda, which we all know is so futuristic and so on and so forth, they've decided that Wakanda has, because they are so futuristic, they have created an interstellar space group. And for whatever reason, the new issue of Black Panther, which I haven't read yet, has Black Panther being held captive on board one of these interstellar spaceships from Wakanda. And Black Panther is now an interstellar story. Instead of being on Wakanda and on Earth, it's Black Panther on these spaceships, interstellar spaceships that Wakanda built, and doing stuff like that. So I don't know. So that was what it started with. I was like, okay, it's an interesting take on it. I guess, you saw the movie, you saw how futuristic it was. It makes perfect sense for them to have taken the next step and have built intergalactic fleet. Vibranium probably can make hyperspace happen. I don't know. So then they start talking about a new Doctor Strange book. Now, there was some Doctor Strange crossover, stuff like that happened earlier, and I just didn't follow it because I was never really interested in it. And they had just restarted over with a new, they went back to the original numbering, but they made Loki be the Sorcerer Supreme, and they've knocked Doctor Strange out of that loop. So this Doctor Strange Sorcerer Supreme book was focusing on Loki with Doctor Strange in the background. So now I didn't follow that, so I don't know where that's going. But all I know is that a new Doctor Strange #1 came out last week. It was on my comic book show that I do every Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, depending. And I showed, and it's gorgeous artwork. Jesus Saez, gorgeous artwork. Mark Waid writing. But Doctor Strange is no longer the Sorcerer Supreme of Earth. His connection to the Earth magic has been severed. So he decides to launch himself into outer space, where he's going to learn outer space magic, which is an interesting concept in and of itself, because if you go to alien worlds and stuff like that, they probably have their own variations of magic and stuff like that aren't like our version of it. And Doctor Strange, being Doctor Strange, is going to be able to learn it. He's going to become the Sorcerer Supreme of the galaxy. So he's going to be intergalactic Doctor Strange. I love the artwork of it, so I bought that book. Mark Waid is a steady writer, so I might stick with this book a little bit and find out about that. So now you have Interstellar Doctor Strange. Then, looking through the Doctor Strange book, I see an ad for Ghost Rider in outer space. But this Ghost Rider is actually the Punisher now. So the Punisher now has become the spirit of vengeance, and he's going to clean up outer space. That's 3 books right there about outer space characters that normally known to be on Earth are now in outer space. Then they announced something via one of the comic book websites as Guardians of the Galaxy. That's just funny. That's a good play on words like that, because they're dissolving the Guardians of the Galaxy. They are no longer a comic, but they need a group to survey intergalactic space. So now you're going to have Asgardians of the Galaxy. So this team consists of Asgardians going through outer space and having adventures in outer space. There's 4 books. And then, in Marvel 2-in-1, or I don't think it was Marvel 2-in-1. It was another book. I forget. I don't know which one it was, but this came out this week. The Silver Surfer discovered that he had to bring back Galactus as Galactus. Now, Galactus had turned from the World Devourer to the World Saver. It was a storyline that Al Ewing wrote in the Ultimate Avengers, and made Galactus become someone who wanted to give life to worlds instead of killing worlds. But in order to defeat a bad guy, Silver Surfer had to convince Galactus to go back to his world-devouring ways. And Galactus says, if I do that, I can't go back to being the world saver. And so Silver Surfer said, we got no choice. We got to do this or we're dead. So Galactus turns back to being the world devourer and devours the world, and they stop the crisis. And then on top of that, Silver Surfer has decided that he's going to become Galactus' herald again. Now, we don't have the Silver Surfer comic yet, but now that you have Galactus back as a threat in outer space, there's something else. And then you've got the Fantastic Four coming up soon. So I'm wondering if this is all kind of leading to a Fantastic Four type of scenario. So to be continued, but I just found it kind of odd that I don't know what that is. Oh, I know what that is. That Marvel's doing all these intergalactic books now. Like they're planning on building something soon. So am I going to keep up with them? No, I'm not probably going to stay with Black Panther because I didn't like that. I'm not going to get the Ghost Rider Punisher book. Doctor Strange looks good because I like the artwork and I like the writer. As Guardians of the Galaxy looks interesting, so I might see that. And then we'll see what happens with Silver Surfer the Guardians. I'll probably pick up Fantastic Four also because Dan Slott's writing it. So we'll see what happens. So there's that. Sports. A couple things to talk about in sports. Caps, Washington Capitals hockey team won the Stanley Cup for the first time in their franchise history. And Ovechkin, who is considered to be one of the greatest hockey players of all time, who has never won a Stanley Cup, has now won a Stanley Cup, and he's been going on basically a 3-day bender now in Washington, taking the cup everywhere he can and getting wasted and drunk and doing it everywhere and just having a blast, which is fine. You worked hard, and you've been working on this for years. You've been in the league for 10, 15 years, and you've had really, really good teams, but you've never gotten past like level 1 of the playoffs. Now you've won the Stanley Cup, and that's great. Golden State beat the Cavaliers in 4 games, swept them in 4 games. I'm not a big NBA fan. It seems boring to me. This is the 4th or 5th time in a row that these two teams have played each other. And to be honest, I think Golden State has won 3 of the 4 times. I think Cavaliers only won once. So there's that. So congratulations to them, but okay. Then on top of that, this is so Terrell Owens, NFL. Terrell Owens, on his 3rd year of eligibility, finally got into the NFL Hall of Fame. And he's going inducted in this year with the likes of Ray Lewis, and there's a whole bunch of other, at the top of my head, there's so many other. Randy Moss, I think, is in there as well. Brian Urlacher, people like that. There's a whole bunch of really good NFL players going in this year. And Terrell Owens got in. So you think, okay, it took 3 years, yeah, but guess what? You're going to the Hall of Fame. It's like what you want to do if you're a sports person. You want to win championships, and you want to get into the Hall of Fame. I think Terrell Owens has got a championship ring, maybe. I'm not 100% certain, but I think he does. And you want to get into the Hall of Fame. Whatever your sports Hall of Fame is, you want to get in there. So, he got in, everybody's happy. Yeah, all right, he's going in there. And he went so far as to get somebody, everyone gets somebody to introduce them and talk about them before they come on and do their speech. So he got like a coach of his to come in and was going to talk about him, and then he would do his speech. Well, this week he said, thanks for the honor, NFL Hall of Fame, but I'm not going to go to the ceremony, which is a first. Because you'd think that you made it to the Hall of Fame, even if it took longer than you thought it would. You're in the Hall of Fame. You should be ecstatic, excited, and you should be living it up and experiencing it because it's what you played the game for. It is what's the word I'm thinking for? It proves that you are or were one of the absolute best football players of all time, because they're not just going to let anybody into the Hall of Fame. If they did that, there would be no reason to get excited about it. Now, the Hall of Fame, you get voted on it, and only a certain amount of people are going to get into the Hall of Fame. And you're getting in. It pissed you off you didn't get in on your first year of eligibility or your second year, but you got in. There are people who've been waiting for years who haven't gotten in, who deserve to be there, but because of the way the vote is, they're not able to get in. There are those who've waited 9 years who finally got in. Chris Carter was one of those guys. He got in last year, but it took him 9 years to get in there. He deserved to be there around first or second ballot as well. So now, to stick it to them saying, yeah, well, because you guys didn't vote me in right away, I'm not going to come to your party. Well, you know what? Who cares? We're not going to go, oh, well, we can't have the Hall of Fame ceremony now because one of our Hall of Fame guys is going to be there. They'd be like, yeah, okay, that's fine. Let's move on with what we're going to be doing. You know, and they might not even, they have a little more class than T.O. might. So they'll probably do some sort of retrospect of his career. Maybe his coach will come in and say something about him and do a speech about him. But he's not going to actually physically be there for the luncheon where he gets to mingle with the other people who got into the Hall of Fame. He's not going to be there where you actually get to see him put on the gold jacket, which is a big deal. You know, and they're not going to kick him out of the Hall of Fame. They shouldn't. You know, it's your right if you don't want to go, but don't think the Hall of Fame is going to cry in their coffee because you're not going to join their party. They're going to be like, okay, whatever, dude. We've got a Hall of Fame ceremony to perform because all these other guys are going to be there, and we want everything to be perfect. So it's really his loss. He's really hurting himself this way. But at the same time, if this is what he wants, this is what he wants. Now, is there a possibility that he could come back and decide, yeah, I'll come to it? Sure. Is there the reason why he's doing it because he wants to do an event where it's his own Hall of Fame party where he's going to cost like $100 to come to it, and you can mingle with him while they watch the Hall of Fame ceremony or something like that? Could he do something like that? Absolutely, they could. It's fine. Now, T.O. has always been a antagonistic football player, and this is really shouldn't have thrown people, but this is the first time it's ever happened because it makes no sense. If you are trying to reach the stars to be the greatest you can be, to prove to the world that you're the greatest football player, or at least one of the greatest football players of all time, and you reach that pinnacle where you're actually going to the Hall of Fame, don't you kind of want to go there and say, hey, look at me. You were making fun of me during my career when I kept saying I'm one of the greatest of all time, stuff like that, and doing all this stuff and all the things that I did do. You guys are saying, you're just being a jerk. He's hard. He's hard-headed. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He thinks he's greater than all that. Guess what? I got voted into the Hall of Fame. You want to go there? You do it nicely, but you can sort of stick it to these people and say, hey, here's a guy that scored 1,000 touchdowns or did 1,000,000 yards, whatever. You're sort of proving that you were right and they were wrong. And you'd think that would be something that T.O. would want to do, but apparently not. So we'll see. So there's that. What else we got here? These are all just... here's another sports story. Oh, yeah, and we forgot to talk about the Triple Crown. Justified has now become the second Triple Crown winner in the last 3-4 years, something like that, when it took close to 20-some years between Triple Crown winners. It's not an easy thing to do, to win the Kentucky Derby, Preakness, and the Belmont Stakes, but Justified did, so we have a second Triple Crown winner in 2-3 years, so that's good on that. It's not an easy task, and it should be celebrated as well. Speaking of horse racing, the horse Bofa D's Nuts has won its first race, and to hear the announcer say it's like Bofa D's Nuts has won, it's because you can name your horses whatever you want. So to name a horse Bofa D's Nuts is kind of interesting. I just think it's funny. All right, so let's see. Let's just clear out this first page, and then we'll do the other stuff as well. So I did all this. I can check that off. Here's the World of Stupid. I'm sorry, Jeremy Kahn. I had to co-opt this. This is from the World of Stupid. I saw this article today, and I had to write it down. It's not The Onion, and it's not anything stupid. It's a real story, and this just goes to show you how stupid people are. A white woman gives birth to a black baby and accuses her husband of having sex with a black girl. I don't know what to say. It's like those people saying, why are there always paternity suits, but never maternity suits when it comes to who is the mother of a child? I don't know. I thought that this world could get to a level stupid like this, but it is. If you're looking at me like I'm from Mars saying, well, what's wrong with that? If you don't know your biology, women are the only people, only sex, I should say, who can carry children. They have wombs built in. They have to do all the work. All the male does is impregnates her. And once she gets impregnated, the baby grows in the mother, and the mother gives birth to the baby from her own body. I don't know if this white woman who gave birth to a black baby is just covering her stupidness because she had an affair with a black guy and got her pregnant and wanted to deflect it off of her husband, or if her husband is that stupid to believe that. Because accusing your husband of having sex with a black woman is the reason you have a black baby. It doesn't work that way. If the husband was cheating on you with a black woman and the black woman got pregnant, that woman would give birth to the baby. And then they would do the paternity suit because they don't know who the father is. It could be him, or maybe the woman that he was having the affair with might be married also. But when you are a white woman and you have a white husband and you have a black baby, genetics doesn't work that way. You do not change pigment color of a baby when your parents are both white. Same thing as if a black woman gave birth to a white baby. If her husband is black also and the wife is black, there is no way that their child will be white. That's not hearsay. That's science. That's proof. There is thousands, millions, billions of proof that that just doesn't happen. Now, if you're mixed, that's a different story. If you are married to a black man, and you're a white woman, or you're a white man married to a black woman, it's a possibility that maybe you could give birth to kind of a white baby. It's not going to be white like me, but it could still have, it'll still have a little bit of the black pigmentation. It all depends on genetics and stuff like that. Vice versa also, if a white woman is married to a black guy and they have a baby, they could still be kind of whitish. Now, I know this also because I've known a couple mulattoes, which is what, I don't know if it's a bad word, but people who are mixed. And they don't necessarily look black or white. You could look at her and you could say, okay, she could be black, but there's always going to be sort of that, I'm not 100% certain though. But when two white people, a white man and a white woman, get pregnant and have a baby and it's black, there is no way that the husband had an affair with another woman, because the woman's black baby making stuff is not going to find its way into the white woman. The black woman's genetic structure is not going to find its way into the white woman to create a black baby. It just doesn't work that way. And hence also, why you don't have maternity tests is because you gave birth to the baby. It came out of you. You are the mother. If you don't know who the father is, that's where the paternity test comes in. If you know for a fact that you've had sex with multiple men in a period of time and you don't know which one is the husband or the father of your child, that's where the paternity test comes in. You're not going to have a maternity test because you gave birth to the baby. You are the mother. That is incontrovertible proof. You're not going to test the maternity of a baby that came out of you. Stupid as hell. On a lighter note, a hardware store that feels emboldened by the current administration and certain things that have happened over the last couple of weeks has put up a sign in his store that says, "No gays allowed." First of all, that's really kind of against civil rights, but we're not going to get into that. The gay population who saw this have decided they want to get their revenge on this guy by creating Yelp reviews that are all pro-gay, which I think is a hilarious revenge on this bigoted, racist asshole. And I love the fact that they put, because people actually do go on Yelp and they check the reviews. I need a hardware store. Let me check. There's a whole list. Let's check this one. And if you have a similar belief that this guy has, and you see all these Yelp reviews like, "Oh, this guy was so great for me and my husband. He was able to tell us how to fix the door to our bedroom so perfectly," stuff like that. You'd be like, "Oh, hell no, I'm not going to touch that." I love that. I think that's a great revenge on that. So hopefully something will come about that their civil rights have been abused and something will come out. Now you get to the thing is, well, they own their business, so they have the right to not serve who they want to, depending upon their religious beliefs or their bigoted social beliefs. I'm not exactly sure I 100% agree with that, but I can see maybe like being a case made for it. But if I was a business owner, to not get business from a certain group of people, be it due to my religious or my racist beliefs, that I didn't want to serve black people or gay people or lesbians or LGBTQT people, I'm really only hurting myself as a business owner, because the whole point of owning your business is to make money. Fight me on that. You try to prove the fact that the reason why you open a business is not so you can make money. I want to open my coffee shop because I know I can make money on it, and I want it to be there for the community, and I want them to have a place they can hang out. And oh yeah, I also want to make a lot of money, so I don't have to do work that I don't want to do, that I actually own something that I want to do and own, and I can control. And if I decide I didn't want to offer coffee to a certain group of people, first of all, A, you're losing that group of people. So you're losing that money right there, right off the bat. So you're already not getting what you probably could have. Second, a lot of these people are going to be angry and upset, as they rightfully should be. And they can go to Yelp or other sites and say 0 stars or 1 star or whatever, and then write comments like, "This guy is a racist, he's a sexist, he's an asshole, whatever." And then there are going to be people who, I will admit, when I was looking for someone to replace my air conditioning unit, I went onto websites to see who the best person was, because you always hear stuff about they overcharged us or they didn't do it properly, and everyone says, "Oh, we're going to do this," but at the same time they say, "We can give you, half price now and half price never," but what makes you believe that they're not just jacking up the prices so much? And I was like, "Oh, we'll just give you half price," and that's actually what they normally serve you. But to you, they're like, "Oh wow, it was so much money, and now I'm working out bank here," and they're like, "No, you're not, because that's what we charge regularly anyway, and you don't know because you didn't go to these sites." So you like to go to these sites and actually see how the people are also. So you go to their websites, and then the websites will have, leave comments for us and leave stars up, or check out our reviews. There's usually a link to reviews for these places. And so I admit I went and I checked on reviews of air conditioning places. There were some that were on average 5 stars. There were some that averaged like 3 stars or whatever. So I was like, okay, why would it be 3 stars? So I clicked on it, and you read all the testimonials. They were rude. They did a horrible job. They put the air conditioner in wrong. And then there might be people like, oh, they're great people, so you really can't tell. But if the majority of people saying they're bad, there's 1 or 2 people that say they're good. Now, chances are, they're probably bad, but in sometimes you always hit a home run every once in a while, At the same time, you look for the ones that do, like the 5-star ones. Yeah, they were professional. I have no problem with them. They've come out. The price is right, so like that. And you see multiple people writing that and leaving that. And you're like, okay. So your mind automatically thinks, okay, if it's a 5-star out of 5-star, they must be the best out there. You call them and you have your own experience. Now, if you have a terrible experience, guess what? You go to that page and you say, they were crap. So people do that. If you refuse to offer them service. Now, on one hand, the gay people are getting revenge by saying how pro-gay it is, which is great, because if it's in the community that is anti-gay, they're not going to want to go to this person's place because apparently he's pro-gay. But, if you get these reviews that says doesn't want to serve, that they refuse to serve us, or he's an asshole, or whatever. People who might be looking for a local coffee shop, they're going to go to the website and they're going to see the reviews, and they're going to be like, wow, this guy's an asshole. I'm not going to go there. And you've lost other people's business as well. That's why when you run a business, you should offer your services to everybody. If it's against your religion, suck it up and serve the people to the best of your ability. And do a good job of it also, because if you're an asshole to them, they're going to remember that. They're not going to come back, and you're losing their business again anyway. The point of owning your own business is to make money and to keep it going, so you don't have to go back and do stuff you don't want to do. Just my 2 cents. Both Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade died this week due to suicides. Both appear to have suffered from depression. I didn't really know much about Kate Spade because I'm not a designer person who goes after designer stuff. My wife is not a designer person who goes after designer stuff, so I really didn't know much about stuff. But the fact that she was so young is distressing a little bit. And then Anthony Bourdain, who I do have heard of because he did that really cool show on the Cooking Network or whatever, where he would go to other countries and experience their culture as well as their food and would review it. Travel logs are really interesting to me as well. So it was an interesting show in that aspect of it. So I knew who Anthony Bourdain was. Wasn't really sure who Kate Spade was. But what really gets me is the fact that they committed suicide. Both this week, both suffering from depression. And then if you want to throw on top of that also an actor from Sons of Anarchy, which I never watched before, also in their 40s, younger than I am actually, also committed suicide this week as well. And I don't know if it's coming more to light now just because it is, or is the current climate in our world causing depression? Because look, I'll be the first person to admit it. I've been exhausted all weekend. I've had bouts of feeling bad about things, feeling bad about where my life is, how I don't feel like I'm being respected, either at home or at work. And the things cross my head like that, every once in a while. And there are times where I feel sad. I'm not happy, and I'm upset. And I don't think that is what clinical depression is, because I don't think I have that, because I'm not constantly feeling this way. And I'm not making light of it either. It's something that, unfortunately, it happens, and it can't be taken care of by just saying, you need to be happier. It's not that easy. Do stuff that makes you happy. Again, not that easy. Robin Williams is another good example. He committed suicide. He suffered from massive depression. But you would never have known that because when you see him doing his stand-up routines and interviews and stuff like that, he's manic and jumping around and saying funny jokes, and you're laughing, and it seems like he's having a good time. He's laughing and he's cracking up and he's stuff like that. But you don't know. They're putting up a front, and you don't know what they're actually going through. Clinical depression is a lot worse than what I've gone through. I have depression, yes, but it's not clinical. It's something that, okay, something bad's happening in your life right now. Okay, it happens, unfortunately, but then, you know, it's going to go away in a little bit because something good might happen, you know, and I'm not going to feel like people who suffer from clinical depression feel, because I cannot say I know what they're going through, because yes, I've been depressed, but you know what? I'm not depressed all the time. These people are, and they can't help it. It's again, science comes in. It is a chemical situation, a problem in your chemical makeup of your body. Could I very well become a depressive? Absolutely, I could have. It all depends on genetics and stuff like that. So unfortunately, it's sad to hear about more and more suicides nowadays. Again, I don't know if it's just because more and more light is being shown upon it, or the depression is starting to really sink in because of the way things are in the world right now. Couldn't tell you. Also, someone who died this week is the last, where is it? There it is. The last surviving cast member of The Wizard of Oz died at the age of 98. He was one of the Munchkins, obviously. And that ends the page of that. A movie that came out in 1939. 50, 60, 70, 80? Yeah, almost 80 years ago. 8 years ago next year, I think, to be honest. The last surviving member of that cast has died. A movie that came out almost 80 years ago. I remember back in the 1980s, we had one of the Munchkins for, I guess it was 89, I guess, when it was the 50th anniversary. Our yearbook for high school that year was Emerald City themed for whatever reason. I guess the yearbook staff thought, hey, this would be cool. It's the 50th anniversary of The Wizard of Oz. And the Senator movie theater was showing a 50th anniversary edition of The Wizard of Oz. So they got one of the remaining surviving Munchkins to come and put their hands in concrete and be at the premiere of the show and stuff like that. So successful. And then somehow they were able to get them to come to our school, and they took pictures of a bunch of things and took pictures outside our school and stuff like that. So that was kind of cool. But the last surviving member of The Wizard of Oz has died. So now whenever you watch The Wizard of Oz, you can say, yeah, they're all dead. That's a depressing thought too, but not clinical depression. I forgot to talk about this last week because this happened last week. Stan Lee, I'm sorry, two gunmen showed up outside of Stan Lee's house, demanded that he give them money that he owes them. Again, Stan Lee's had a rough time pretty much ever since his wife died, being accused of sexual harassment, being abused by the people who are watching over him. He's suffering from illnesses, and now you have these two psychopaths outside of his house demanding money that he probably doesn't owe them. I don't know, maybe he does, but I don't know that. Everything was quelled without any gunshots being fired, but it's still kind of a weird story. I don't need to talk about that. I'm running out of time anyway, so that's not necessary. It's a personal thing. We're not going to talk about that. GameStop, the video game store, is going to start selling comic books as well. I've seen a few there every once in a while, but they're going to start selling Marvel and DC comics. Cool, I guess, another place to get comics, but nothing to beat my comic book store because I'm not only getting Marvel, DC, I get Independence as well. And my comic book store is literally right up the street from me, whereas GameStop is way down the road. I'll still go to GameStop to get, like, you know, video games and Pokemon stuff for my kids, but I'm probably not going to get comics there. Ghostbusters and Gremlins both came out on the same day in 1984. That was just past week. So that must have been amazing. I remember going to Ghostbusters. I don't think I ever saw Gremlins in the movie theater because I think it was PG-13, and I wasn't allowed to go see it. I didn't see that till my friend Craig brought it over during New Year's Eve when he came over our house, and we watched it then. That was like the first time I saw it. I don't even remember what New Year's Eve that was, because his brother was in the University of Maryland marching band, and he always had a big party at his house, and they would all get drunk in their basement, and then at New Year's Eve, midnight, the band would come out and they would drunkenly play Auld Lang Syne. Then they would take a parade and go up and down our neighborhood playing Auld Lang Syne and the University of Maryland Fight Song and other songs as well, occasionally stopping at houses where people had come out to see what the commotion was and would play a song for them. It was really cool and a nice memory I had. So I just thought that was interesting. Speaking of Ghostbusters, I'll talk about that other stuff down here. Speaking of Ghostbusters, new species of dinosaur was discovered and it's going to be named after Zool of the Ghostbusters fame. So that's pretty interesting. And it's particularly interesting probably for Dan Aykroyd, who is the biggest science nerd you've ever seen in your life. Speaking of science, the Mars probe or rover or whatever on there, they found organic matter on Mars, which means that that's life. There was life on Mars at one time, and this organic matter proves that there was life and could still be life on Mars. We already knew that, though, because the Martians are still there and are underground or hiding in the canals, according to Mars Attacks and Pierce Brosnan. I want to bring this up, and then I'm going to switch over and just go down my thing. I graduated high school on June 5th, 1991. Now, the reason why I remember it so specifically is because my dad's birthday is June 5th. So I always like to say it was my birthday present to my dad was I graduated high school. I thought that was funny. That was 27 years ago. And I posted that on Facebook this past week. And all the people I went to high school who I follow came out and said, "Why did you say that? Why you made me feel so old? You're a moron." It's jokingly. I know. It's just, but yeah, and they're like, "How did you remember that so much?" Like, yeah, my dad's birthday was that day, so I know it. But then I started thinking again. My dad turned 71 this past June 5th. So if you subtract 27 years from that, one second. Let's see, 71, 61, 51, 50, 49, 48, 47, 46, 45, 44. My father was 44 years old when I graduated high school at the age of 18, I guess, 17, 18. Let's see, 91, I was 18. I hadn't been 18 yet. I was going to turn 18, so I was 17 years old. Yes. My dad was 44 years old when I graduated high school. And remember, I'm the youngest. I have a sister 3 years older than I am. So she graduated high school back in 1988. My dad was 41 years old. I'm going to be 45 in 10 days on June 20th. My oldest kid is graduating elementary school. Here's some perspective again. That's an interesting take on this because, again, obviously the 70s was a different time. My parents got married in 1969. So that made my dad, let's see, he was born in 47. So 47, 57, 67. He was 22 years old when he got married. I didn't get married till I was 30. So right there, there's an eight-year difference right there. And then almost immediately, it wasn't a shotgun wedding because they got married in January of 69. My sister came in March of 1970. Again, going back to biology, for those who don't know, it takes 9 months for a baby to be born. Now, there could be complications. They could come before then, but my sister was a healthy baby and 9 months. So what does that mean? That means that my sister was born in March of 1970, so you go backwards, March, February, January, December, November, October, September, August, July. In June of 1969, about 6 months after my parents got married, did they get pregnant. 6 months after they got married. So it wasn't a shotgun wedding. So it was a different time, a different era. My sister came in 1970. I came in 1973. My dad was 44 years old when I graduated high school. I'm 44 right now. And I said my daughter's going to be graduating elementary school on Thursday, because their school ends on Friday this week. Just an interesting perspective on how things changed. Again, he got married when he was 22. I got married when I was 30. Sometimes it works out. My sister got married when she was 23. So I guess technically it makes sense for her now, because her oldest son is going to be a junior in college this upcoming year. And I think her youngest son is graduating high school next year. So, and my sister's a little bit older. So she waited a couple of years after than my parents did. So just a different perspective. And it just made me think about how things are different. And the fact that at this time, when my dad was my age that I am at this time right now, he had a kid who had just graduated high school. It blows my mind to think about that, because my daughter is graduating elementary school. She still has 3 years before she even enters high school, and then an additional 4 years before she graduates. So she's got 7 years. I'm going to be in my 50s when she graduates high school. Just interesting perspective. All right, I'll do my holiday stuff. I'll just do real quick. I'll mention this again when I do the holidays again. But June 8th was National Wedding Day. And a lot of people that I knew have anniversaries on that date. Friends of mine from Texas were celebrating their 18th, 23rd, something like that. My Aunt Jane, Uncle Don, I didn't know this, had their 50th anniversary on that day. And Julie Britton, someone I went to high school with, she had her anniversary on that date also. So June 8th, which was National Wedding Day, which I'll talk about at the end of the show. National Wedding Day, people actually got married on National Wedding Day. All right, here we go. I like this idea. I am not, look, I'm going to touch on a little bit of gun things right now. I believe in smart gun control. I don't believe that you can't have guns, which seems to be the perspective of the people who don't want gun control. They're afraid that, if you get gun control, you're going against their rights to have guns. No, we're not going against your rights to have guns. You can have your guns. You can keep your guns. I don't give a damn. What we're going after is the big military guns that military people use, that you do not need to use for home protection. And if your whole defense is, well, what if the government decides they want to come seize my house? I need to be ready for them. Having a gun that they use, if they really wanted to seize your house, is not going to stop them from seizing your house, because they can bring an army filled with people that have these guns. And you might get 1 or 2 of them done. Maybe not even that. You might not even do that. As soon as you pull that trigger, you're going to have 20 people shooting at you, and you're going to be dead, and they're going to take your shit. Again, it's a paranoid belief system that they're going to take your guns, and that's not the whole point of it. We're not saying you can't have guns. We're saying you can't have specific types of guns, because there's no reason to have those. If you want regular handguns, revolvers, that's fine, but you don't need Gatling guns and machine guns and so that, which is only purpose is not for home security. It's to kill as much as you can. Because a simple handgun, revolver, should be enough to protect your house from burglars. Most burglars work by themselves. At most, they might have 2 to 3 people working for them. A single handgun can probably take them out. Fine. I'm okay with you having those guns. I don't care. But you do not need to have these military-style guns. But that's not what this was going to devolve into. Someone is coming up with a better idea, I think. For those who are weighing, should I get a gun or shouldn't I get a gun to protect my house? Think about this. Or if you already have a gun, here's a better option for protecting your house from burglars. get a guard dog. There's a group who is trying to start a movement that you can swap guns for shelter dogs. And I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea whatsoever, even if you have guns to get yourself a shelter dog or a shelter cat or shelter animal, whatever. But there comes the idea of, why don't you bring your guns and we'll trade you. You don't have to pay for all this, pay for the dog. You give us your gun, we'll give you a dog of your choice. Now think about this. Most people do not broadcast the fact that they have a gun in their house. There might be some that do. The majority of people don't. But the majority of people do announce that they have a dog. Beware of dog. Because their dogs are highly protective of their owners. And if you get yourself a big dog and you have a beware of dog sign, and you have a typical burglar who's walking around at 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning, looking for a place to rob, or even if you're not home, if it's during the day and you're not home, and you're looking for a place to rob, if they see a house that has no signs, or a house that says beware of dog, they're going for the house that doesn't have sign in it because they don't want to deal with the dogs. They don't know what the dog could do. They don't know if it is a trained attack dog that if anybody comes to the door that they don't know, this dog might freak out and bark as loud as he can, and that might draw the neighbors around him to look out the door saying, what the hell's wrong now? Or if you somehow are able to get into the house and the dog doesn't recognize you, and he's one of those highly protective dogs, he's going to attack your ass. He's going to bite you. He's going to bark at you, growl at you, foam in the mouth, and race and run you the fuck out of that house. Now, if they decide to hit a house that doesn't have a guard dog, or you might have a gun, but there's nobody home, they're going to break into your house, they're going to steal your shit, and they're going to leave. And even if you had a gun, you're not going to be able to do it. Now, if they came in when you're in there, and they go in the house and you have a gun or you have a dog, the dog's going to usually be the first person to announce that there's something there. It's going to wake up the owners. The owners can grab the guns, obviously, and then they can go and shoot the bad guys if they want to. But here's the thing. I think the minute a burglar breaks into a house and a dog starts barking and growling at them, they're going to get the hell out of Dodge because they don't want any attention drawn to them. They want to get the hell out. They want to get in and out and leave without anyone even knowing they were there. I think it's a great idea. I think they should do that. Artists can build anything from chocolate. I saw a video of this. He was building tables and chairs and stuff like that out of chocolate. He's able to freeze it. He can paint it with colored dye in the chocolate and stuff like that. But it was made out of chocolate. My wife was like, why would you do something like that? I don't know, but it was really neat to see like tables and chairs made out of chocolate. Same time, a guy also makes art from flip-flops. So instead of throwing out your old flip-flops, give it to this guy and he'll make some art, and it's really neat looking artwork. So I don't know what that says. Oh yeah, that's right. A 9-year-old girl in England, I think, has gone into rehab due to video game addiction to the video game Fortnite. Her parents kind of made her go in there after she would get up in the middle of the night and play Fortnite all night long, all the way till the morning, and then go into school and would fall asleep in class. And then she was on Fortnite for up to 10 hours a day. And when the parents tried to take the consoles away, she would throw massive tantrums and throw stuff at them and threaten them with stuff. And she never went to the bathroom while she was playing because she was afraid. Possible maybe she crapped herself, pissed herself as possible too, because she didn't want to leave the game. And then the parents also discovered that she was charging in-game purchases to their credit cards that was up to like 50 pounds or something like that, which is a lot for a video game thing. So they were able to take her to go to rehab, and hopefully she'll be able to get taken out. But that's also not just addiction for video games, but the parents have got to step in quicker than they did. 10 hours a day on a video game is excessive. I let my kids watch videos and stuff like that during the weekends if we're not doing anything, 3 to 4 hours at a time. But we try to break them off of that and let them play with their toys and stuff like that, and go out and do things, and then maybe give them another hour or two. It's not 10 hours straight a day. Though days like this where it's kind of rainy and crappy, we don't have anything really to do, we might let them play on video games and stuff a little bit longer than we should. But you know what? They're okay. They don't fall asleep in class. They don't get up in the middle of the night and play video games. They've paused video games. They've had to go to the bathroom. And they've also turned them off on their own accord. You know what? I've done enough. Boom. I'm not going to watch anymore. So, actually, New Jersey man wins $315.3 million Powerball jackpot after going back to the store to return OJ that was not on sale. Now, you get those things where, it says you get two OJs for the price, for half, buy one, get one free type of thing. So you buy the 2 OJs, and you might not necessarily see it when they scan it. They scan it and they get in there, and you take it home, and then you look at your receipt. You're like, wait a second. It's supposed to be buy one, get one free, not 2 for the same price. So sometimes you go back and say, hey, you screwed this up, and either they'll say you got the wrong orange juice, or, oh, we're sorry, it didn't get in the system, and they'll credit you and stuff like that. So this person decided to do that. And when he went back, he decided, I'll just buy Powerball while I'm here. And he won the $315.3 million jackpot. I wish I had $315 million. Oreo has an iced coffee out now, and it's exactly what you think it is. So if you enjoy iced coffee, you can go to your local grocery store. They should have Oreo iced coffee out there now. So, a Zanzibar leopard has been captured on film, and it's an animal that was thought to be extinct. I always love these kinds of stories where animals you thought were extinct or were never seen in the wild in years, or just thought they didn't exist anymore, all of a sudden show up on these trail videos or whatever. So that's a cool thing that maybe this animal is making a comeback. So that's pretty cool. The Black Plague is back and has killed 49 people somewhere, I think in South America. But the fact that the Black Plague is back could be a little disconcerting, considering 49 people have died from it this year. So I guess something to keep an eye out for. But there should be medicines and vaccines for it now. But I think that's why the Black Plague isn't as prevalent as it was. But the fact is it's back, and you should keep an eye on it. And with our medical crisis that we're in now because of the crappy administration, who knows what could happen. What is that? Oh, the entire Swedish National Guard has been mobilized for the first time since 1975. There's some sort of issue up in that way, but whenever you hear about Switzerland armies, stuff like that, they don't really have an army. They've never really fought in any wars. They're always neutral when it comes to stuff. But for the first time since 75, their military is mobilizing, and that's not a good sign for whatever's to come, or whatever reason they're doing that. Maybe they're just being prepared, but maybe they see something on the wind is coming towards them, and they need to be prepared. Archaeologists say that they have found the tomb of Santa Claus, technically Saint Nicholas. In October 2017, they found what they believe are his remains underneath the floorboards of a church. Not necessarily under, but it was like a basement that was never found before, under floorboards of an old church that they somehow were digging into, and they broke a hole in, and then they go down. There's a secret room that they'd never found before, and there was St. Nicholas's remains. So Santa Claus, you could say, is magical. St. Nicholas is who is based on, obviously. St. Nicholas is dead, but Santa Claus is still alive, and that's how he can go and visit all the children of the world in one night, because he's magical. And he's not alive anymore, but he's a spirit, a ghost, a god, whatever you want to call it. And he's able to do that. So good on that. International House of Pancakes, or IHOP, is now changing its name to International House of Breakfast because they offer more than pancakes. So now it's IHOB and not IHOP. I don't need to say anything more about that. Ouch. Top Gun 2 with Val Kilmer and Tom Cruise has started filming. You will see Top Gun 2 coming out next year sometime. So a sequel to a 1986 movie is now coming back out. I've never been the biggest fan of Top Gun, but hey, if you love Top Gun, there you go. Speaking of movies that we do not need, DC is currently deciding they're going to make 2 Joker movies. They're going to make the Jared Leto Joker movie spin-off from Suicide Squad, and they're still going to make the Joaquin Phoenix Joker origin movie. That's too many Joker movies for my taste. You all know my taste on Jokers. I think Joker's a highly overrated character and should not be as prevalent. And now there are other DC superheroes that you could have made movies about instead of sticking with a Batman theme type of thing, because in their eyes, only Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman are characters that are going to be successful for them. So they're going to keep digging that grave instead of trying another Green Lantern movie, which had potential to be good, and it's a good character, and it's interesting mythology. You just need to get the right writers on it and the right actors in it. Legion of Superheroes is a good one to look about. There's a whole wide world of superheroes. And if Marvel showed you anything, Guardians of the Galaxy, Doctor Strange, Ant-Man, Black Panther, these not fringe characters, but characters that are not as big as like a Spider-Man or Hulk or whatever that have had their own TV shows, stuff like that, can actually make a ton of money for you. And they're not doing that because now you have 2 Joker movies coming, and to be honest, I don't want to see either one. 25 hours in the day will be coming not soon, but in about 200 million years, before the Earth is totally obliterated by the sun. The people who are still living on Earth, if they are still Earthlings or we've evolved, or if they're aliens living here or whatever, will go from a 24-hour day to a 25-hour day because the moon is slowly but surely rotating its way away from Earth. And eventually, maybe it'll disappear for good. I don't know, but because of that, it's going to increase the length of a day to 25 hours. But again, not for a really, really long time. So nothing you need to worry about, just something of interest that I thought you'd write. Oh yeah, a female baseball fan, Padres fan, was watching a baseball game. She was like in the upper deck, just minding her own business. She had drinking her beer, stuff like that. A foul ball comes flying up towards her. She catches the foul ball in her beer and drinks the beer. That's just a neat little thing, and really cool story. You should check the video if you can probably find that. It's really quite interesting. Ghostly lightning has been discovered in nuclear reactors. Just lightning that appears. They think it has something to do with chemicals and stuff like that in the nuclear reactors causing it, but still, to look into a nuclear reactor and see this weird electrical lightning storm in there when there really is no electrical currents in there is kind of creepy. What the hell is this? I have no idea what that says. It was like my last story of the day. Got maintained on radar. Give University baseball points to Jersey. We round on world stripes and said my name. Oh. This isn't necessary. Stupid. I got mentioned on the radio. I listen to a sports channel up here in Baltimore, 105.7 The Fan. My favorite is Scott and Jeremy from 3 to 5. Yeah, 2 to 5 actually. 2 to 6 rather. And Jeremy's been doing this thing called The World of Stupid, where it's sports stuff, but in The World of Stupid, he covers stupid stuff that happens in sports, but also just stupid people doing things. And I sent him something on Facebook of a bachelorette party whose theme was like stripping luchador wrestler type things. And one of the wrestlers, before he stripped, actually did a wrestling move and took out the bride-to-be in a wrestling move that I don't think she was expecting. I got mentioned on the radio. Okay, I got it now. Wrestling bachelorette party to Jeremy. He read World was Stupid and said my name. And that's what it was. Okay. Finally, let's end tonight's show because I've gone over my 2-hour limit with my typical Check I Day stuff. Every day is literally a holiday, and this is the holidays for today, yesterday, and so on and so forth. Today's holidays are they already June 11th? Why? Because it's not already tomorrow overseas yet. I mean, it's 3 o'clock. I guess maybe it is. June 10th is Abused Women and Children's Awareness Day, Alcoholics Anonymous Founders Day, Ballpoint Pen Day, Multicultural American Child Day, National Black Cow Day, which I call brown cow. It's basically root beer and vanilla ice cream in a float type of thing. National Career Nursing Assistance Day, unless, of course, the black cow is a Coke and ice cream. Brown cow to me was always root beer and ice cream float, where a black cow might be a Coke and ice cream float, possibly. National Career Nursing Assistance Day is today. National Children's Day is today, but every day is Children's Day. National Urban Spice Day is today. National Iced Tea Day is today. National Race Unity Day is today. Right to Your Father Day today is today. Yesterday was the Belmont Stakes, Donald Duck Day, International Young Eagles Day. This is June 9th. National Rosé Day, which we didn't have at my stepmom's, my mother-in-law's 70th birthday party. We had no rosé. National Strawberry Rhubarb Pie Day, National World Apps Day, World Gin Day. We didn't have gin either. Worldwide Knit in Public Day was yesterday, June 9th. Writers' Rights Day was June 9th. June 8th was Friday. Best Friends Day, Betty Picnic Day, Jelly-Filled Donut Day, Name Your Poison Day, National Caribbean American HIV/AIDS Awareness Day. National Marriage Day was on June 8th. I talked about that earlier in the show. Upsy Daisy Day, World Brain Tumor Day, World Oceans Day. I'm not going to read any June 7th because that's a little bit old. But tomorrow, June 11th, or if you're watching this on June 11th, today, June 11th's holidays are National Making Life Beautiful Day, National King Kamehameha Day, that's the Hawaiian thing, National German Chocolate Cake Day, Cousteau Day, and Corn on the Cob Day is June 11th. So every day is a holiday, and I just read them to you. And that is the end of my episode of Dylan Knows. Next week, it's going to be interesting because next week is Community Day for Pokemon Go, but it's also I'm going to a family party with my mom. Just me and my mom are going to a family party that my sister's sister's in-laws are throwing, and I'm just going there to support my sister and brother-in-law. So that's on Saturday, June 16th. So I'll be driving down to Virginia and back with my mom and taking her back home to Towson and then back home here. So I probably won't be doing a show on Saturday again. Sunday is Father's Day. And I think my father-in-law is coming up to visit us to celebrate Father's Day with us. So I probably might not do a show on Sunday because they'll be up during the time I'm doing a show. So I might do a show on Friday night, which is the last day of school for my kids. They start their summer vacation Friday night. It's also the beginning of Reisterstown's Music on Main Street event, which goes until the end of August, where every Friday a band plays and for a couple hours, and we go out and have a good time on Main Street, which is cool. So probably more than likely, since I will actually be leaving my work early on Friday because I got to pick up my kids by 3 o'clock, since their after-school care closes at 3 instead of 6 because it's the last day of school. So I'll probably end up doing my show Friday. And because of that, I will probably be doing a solo show. Now, the next weekend will be after my birthday. My birthday is Wednesday, June 20th. So next weekend is also my birthday weekend. So we'll see what happens with that. My birthday will be on June 20th. And then after that, the 23rd as a Saturday, may or may not maybe do a show with MJ. I'll have to figure that out. So as of now, look for a show on Friday now I can think of. Probably be the best day for me because I'll be out all day Saturday, and then Sunday's Father's Day, and I usually like to do it around this time of day when my in-laws will be in visiting us. So we'll see. So until then, just keep an eye out on my Twitter page and Facebook or whatever, and check it out. And thanks for watching.